I stand here because of the people that came before me. Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst those giants, amongst those greats, amongst my ancestors, amongst my guys. Thank you, everybody in this room.
Now, the best thing that happened to Michael B. Jordan, the best thing that happened to Sinners was hiring that guy to say no at the Baptist.
What a take.
That was the best thing. That was the best PR.
Slow down for a second.
Is there anybody that list is missing?
What is going on? What is up, Triborough? Man, I can't wait to get into this conversation tonight. First of all, how you doing, brother? Doing all right?
Chilling. How you doing?
Man, I'm ready to get this popping because
I
want to backhand Charlemagne the fraud. We no longer call him a god. He is the fraud. Just a real backhanded comment. You know, I don't understand why he just couldn't give Sinners and Michael B. Jordan working over 25 years in the game acting and finally gets his comeuppings, and you got people got to shoot him down. You know, how you feel about that? Because he's the first one to preach about we need to stop beating up black famous artists and then black communities. And I mean, what is he doing?
And it's Charlemagne. Like I don't take too much stock in what Charlemagne has to say because he's done this before, you know. And I love the fact that Michael B. Jordan won. I think finally the Oscars gave it to the right person, you know. And you know, he had one of the best movies of last year with Sinners. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm happy for Michael B. Jordan. I hope this is like, you know, a start of more things to come, and not just for him, but for other black young up and coming actors and actresses that deserve to be nominated for their work. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really like care about what Charlemagne has to say. I just feel like he does things just to get those views and the clickbait, and that's pretty much what it is with him.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because when he was on the Breakfast Club a couple years back, you know, he was like, "Oh, I don't understand how you're not looked at one of the greats," and all. You know what I mean? Charlemagne, always in everybody's face, is always this nice guy, but then he goes on this podcast that he does with that white dude, I forget his name, and they just totally smack everybody. And then he goes on the Breakfast Club and acts like he's an angel. You know, like I really wish that Baby would have smacked him around when he went that day in the studio asking for some respect on his name.
No.
You know, because he had the balls to say, well, you ain't doing this to Rick Ross. You know what I mean? And then don't worry about what I'm going to do to Rick. I'm here for you. So, you know, and he's always ran from every situation. He's got bitched up before. He's got snuffed in the face. He's got slapped around, and he still remains to talk shit. And I just don't understand why we just can't celebrate greatness. You know, the movie Sinners was an amazing movie. It broke records. And every award that it got, plus I thought it deserved more. So I was just really kind of, you know, pissed off about that whole shit. I just didn't like it at all. Speaking of, we got Nash.
It has to be. It can't. We have to.
Go ahead. Go ahead. My bad.
Now I was saying, just the thought of just putting that idea out there that, you know, Michael B. Jordan might have orchestrated the whole thing just to get like maybe a sympathy win from the Oscar committee. I don't believe that. I just feel like we have to support our people for their good work and they deserve. He deserves to win. You know what I'm saying? And you know, salute to Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, speaking of, you know, and I do like the fact that he shouted out that Will Smith is still one of the greats, you know, because he is blacklisted for, you know, another 8 years. So he's never going to get a nomination again. You know, I have my feelings about the whole.
We know because it's like as long as he keeps doing A-list movies, I think he will definitely get a shot again.
But that's the point. That's also another problem, though. He's really not picking. I mean, I love the Bad Boys franchise, but like the third and the fourth installment to me were just a little weak, a little too far out there. Now we're starting to turn into like a Fast and Furious type of vibe. You know what I mean? At least in part one and part two, you really felt that chemistry. Part three, I just felt like the chemistry was almost there. And then by the time it gets to four, I just feel like they're just too disconnected and they're trying too hard for the jokes. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I always felt about that. And I love, don't get me wrong, I love Will Smith. I made videos defending him on not what he did at the Oscars, but the greatness that he has brought to entertainment. So, I still love him as far as an actor goes. And, the other stuff, I guess I got my own kind of. First of all, I wouldn't have laughed at the joke. Once you laugh, that's it. You can't smack somebody. So that was just my thought. You know what I mean? And I still think in some way, shape, or form it was orchestrated. But that's also my theory on the whole thing. But I wanted to, before we go on and get into this rap list, because I'm really eager to go into our list that we had picked out. You and Nash last night, y'all did a great live stream. I was only able to catch about 20 minutes, half an hour on my way to work. But make sure y'all go check that out. Give it a rewatch. They were talking about Jack Hollow or what's his name? It's Jack
Hollow.
Yeah, and how he's redoing all these album covers and I don't even want to get into that, but I had to say it because the way y'all were explaining it, it really does break it down. And I thought it was a fantastic live from what I was able to watch. So y'all go check that out. It was just hilarious. I was laughing. I had a couple jokes in there that Nash and you was laughing at. So you know what I mean? I just wanted everybody to know, jump over there on your page and what's his YouTube page over there?
Mark Nash. Yes.
All right. Mark Nash. And he's in the comments right now. So if you want to throw your channel up in there, Mark, go right ahead. And Charlemagne the Fraud. Everybody finds that funny. That's what he is to me. All right. So real quick, I'm going to pop up this list and we're going to get it. And I'm just going to pop it up real quick. Cannabis, Busta Rhymes, Fabulous, Jadakiss, Big L, Andre 3000, Ludacris. Then we have Inspector Deck, Method Man, Lupe, Prodigy, Black Thought, Joel Santana, and we also have the late, great, amazing Lloyd Banks. So what do you think about – let's start with Cannabis. Do you think they're right?
Cannabis, yes. I do feel like after his first album, he did get better. I loved his sophomore album. I think his sophomore album is his best one. I think
I agree.
Cannabis, was it BC 2000?
Yeah, 2000 BC.
That was a great album.
Yeah.
Yes, 2000 BC, great album. He had production from DJ Clue was on that. He had I think Novel was on a track. You know, he had Irv Gotti, rest in peace. Irv Gotti did something on there. That was a much better album than the first one. I did not like the first one, and he had all the hype and promotion from the label for that first album. But Wyclef messed up his first album. But his second album was great. I've heard people tell me even his other albums, his other solo albums were great as well. You know, he did an album with Keith Murray. You know, yeah. So that one, I will say, Cannabis deserves to be on the list.
Yeah,
there's others though.
His other ones too. He really goes in a weird alien type of like way. You know what I mean? Like just in a weird alien, like he's an alien and he's living amongst us. It's kind of like what some of his albums feel like. They're just weird. They got this weird vibe, and he's trying so hard to be super lyrical, and I just don't think he has that. anymore.
Right.
I think he's a great, dope rhymer, but I don't think he has what he had in that sophomore album. You know, real quick, do you believe the rumors that LL said, well, in the song, it wasn't even a rumor, that him and Wyclef set him up for his first album to be a failure?
Uh-huh.
Do you think that's true?
No, I don't.
No?
I don't think Wyclef would set up his own artist. Nah, because at that point, like Cannabis was already a part of the refugee camp. You know, like he was doing stuff with Lauren, touring with Lauren and the Fugees. I don't think that would be stupid if Wyclef set up his own artist like that. I don't think he would do that.
Yeah.
Not for LL Cool J. That doesn't make sense.
I don't think Jim Jones has a great album, let alone a classic. But that's me. I am not a Jim Jones fan.
I will say Jim has good albums. I don't think none of them are classic though. He has
and I don't think none of them are great. They're good, but I don't think any of them are great.
Right.
I think he falls into the same category as like almost like a Cameron. You know what I mean? Like I think there are points where he just tries too hard to be Cameron, and he's just not Cameron. And Cameron's an ABC rapper. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I've always felt. I think Purple Haze and Killer Season were his best albums. Confessions of Fire was okay. But I think Purple Haze is Cameron's classic album, and that's it. I don't think he has any other classics in his lineup.
I do feel like Come Home With Me is right there. But, I mean, the majority of fans will say Purple Haze is his, like, best album. I do feel like Come On With Me was a great album. Even SDE was very underrated. But he has some good albums.
Not classic. I would rather listen to Mace's Harlem World before I listen to
Harlem World was great. Harlem World was a great album.
Yeah. And let's just make this clear. What defines a classic album to me is if it has 3 or 4 skips in a range of 15 tracks. That's how I define. So if an album has, let's say, 10 tracks, you know, you got a shorter album, but it is fire and you only skip 1 track, that's a classic because the ratio still fits. You know what I mean? As long as you can stay in that 80-85% range, I think that's what defines a classic album. After that, if I got to skip more than 5-6 times, it's not a classic to me. Is that how you define it? How you kind of look at it?
As in terms of like, what do you mean?
The album. Like, how many skips does it take before it doesn't become a classic to you?
I think if you skipping like 3-4 songs, then it's not a classic album. If we had Ready to Die, if Ready to Die comes out and we're skipping past a Warning and Machine Gun Funk and, you know, Things Done Change, and then it's not a classic album.
Yeah.
You know, if you skip 1 track, I wasn't a favorite of, I didn't like Friend of Mine. You know, I know a lot of people, I didn't care for that song. Some people didn't like Represent. But if you skip 1 song on that album, that's cool. It's still a classic album. But we talking about 3-4 songs, 5, no, not a classic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Nas. It's like putting on Illmatic and, you know, like I Am for me. It's hard to skip. It's hard to skip tracks. The only time I can really do it is if it's a radio hit. If it was on the radio and it was playing 150 times a freaking day, then I never really, I would just skip it because I know the damn song by heart. But every other track, you know, if I skip it 3 or 4 times on an album, it's not a classic to me. You know, and then mixtapes, unfortunately, don't count. Next on the list, this one's a tough one, is Busta Rhymes.
No,
how we feeling?
That is wrong. No, but Busta first 3 albums, The Coming, that was 30 years this year. You have When Disaster Strikes and ELE. ELE is probably his best album, but those first 3 Busta solo albums are like his best. Those are classics to me. I think.
Matter of fact. I was bumping I make sure everything remains raw. You know what I mean? Like I mean it's just Busta just gives you that energy, that vibe, and I love it. Love it.
You
Highly
disagree?
disagree.
I disagree with you, Reg. Bro, I respect your musical knowledge, but Busta's first three is his best albums to me. Like after that, after ELE, that's when we tread into Anarchy was dope. It wasn't promoted enough by Elektra, and then we get into the 2000s with Genesis, which wasn't great, and then it gets worse after that. It Ain't Safe No More. I hated that album. I think that's his worst album. And then he rebounded with the Big Bang because he was on Aftermath at that point, but he left Aftermath and then he gave us crap like Back on My BS. But I think his first three solo albums is his best in his discography still. Like if you ever see him live, he's still performing Woo-Ha, he's still performing Put Your Hands on My Eyes Can See, he's still performing Give Me Some More, and the Janet. I saw him last summer at Rock the Bells. He performed the Janet song and it was great. And he had Janet Jackson on the big screen. It was that's timeless, classic Busta Rhymes.
Yep, and I agree. The second one is it teeters for me, but the first and the third are definitely they are classics to me, in my opinion. Right. But everybody, again, you have to be in the mood for Busta Rhymes. He's high energy. He's lyrical. His beats are always just. You know what his first album reminded me of was a Craig Mack with better lyrical ability.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I think Craig Mack was very lyrical, but Busta Rhymes is he just takes it a step further and gives you that same funk and that rhythm. And it's hard to listen to a Busta album, especially the first three, and be in a bad mood. You know what I'm saying? It just makes you, this is the dumb shit we spend money on. You know what I mean? Like you can't, I don't know. I think I would agree with you on his first three. This
is somebody that, like, he came from a group, Leaders of the New School, and he wasn't supposed to go solo first. It was going to be Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown was to start that group, and Busta stole his shine with verses on Scenario. Saying you had the SWVs on the You're the One remix. He's on the Flavor in Your Ear remix, and he had that buzz. Like I compare Busta's solo run to Jim Jones when Jim Jones didn't get that Rockefeller contract, and he had to go out there on the mixtape scene and build his own fan base and buzz, and that was Busta. Busta was in the studio jumping on everybody's track, giving them a hot verse, and he got his solo deal and he ran with it, and he's one of the best rap artists ever to come from a group and as a solo artist. I love him.
Yep, he is. He's up there, and he made his lane. They use his music for commercials. They use his music to promote stuff. So he made his lane. He still shouts out Leaders of the New School. He still has mad love for all the members. He's never really talked down about them. It's just that he made it, and he did it exactly the way you said, by jumping on remixes, doing all this shit. Look at Jay-Z, been around since '89. You know what I'm saying? He was doing shit with Jaz-O, flying around in the fucking music video like Peter Pan. So don't tell me that he just comes out. It's just that Jaz-O went a different direction and Jay-Z stayed in the lane, and boom, Reasonable Doubt. 30 years, you know what I'm saying? Another 30-year anniversary album. We got to do a stream on that. Great 30-year anniversary albums.
Definitely.
That'll be the next stream right there. All right, fabulous. Now, both of us, are very fabulous, biased. I can't stand him. Well, it's not that I can't stand him. I just feel like he can never put together a great album.
Let me say, like, I love Fab. Fab, he's from Brooklyn, my home.
Lyrical.
He's a great MC. I've seen him live. He doesn't have a strong, at least for that night when I saw him live, he didn't have a strong performance. But he came from the 90s. He came from the 90s into the 2000s with DJ Clue and Desert Storm. He's a talented artist, but he doesn't have a classic album. He has good albums, like Jim Jones. He has good albums. I love Sweet Dreams. From Nothing to Something was great. Loso's Way, great albums. But none of them are classic. They're not classic tier to me, where I could put them on the same mountaintop as The Chronic and Doggy Style. He don't have those albums. He don't have a Purple Tape in his discography. His mixtapes now, he went on a
Yeah,
mixtape run. When we think of the mixtape era, Wheezy, 50 Cent, Dipset is Fabulous. Fabulous got to be in there because he has great mixtapes. The Soul Tape series was great. There is no competition. Summertime Shootouts. His mixtapes were better than his albums. And he's not the only one from that era. Joe Budden too. He had better mixtapes than albums.
Oh my
You know what I'm
God.
saying?
No.
Reg,
come on, man. Joe Budden's mixtapes. Woo!
yeah.
Mood music,
was great.
all of them were my shit. All of them.
They still talk about that.
And three, Mood Music 3 is still my favorite one. Like out of all of them, Mood Music 3 is the one for me. But my God, I used to beg my bootlegger, like I go to the shop, like, yo, you got it? You got it? You got it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it next week. You got it?
Bro,
you got it? Oh my God.
They were just talking about that on the Joe Budden show. Like B-Dot. B-Dot was talking about when they were talking about timeless albums, B-Dot mentioned Mood Music was like one of his best. He was like his timeless.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he was making, bro, I was on the Joe Budden street team. Like that his first album was not great. He had a couple bangers. But his mixtape series his mixtape series was his best. But I mean, Fabulous is dope. It's just that he don't have a classic album to me in his discography.
Yeah. Now, if we started talking
I
about,
agree. Yeah, he needs to be on the list.
Yeah, I do. The way I look at it is, if we were to start throwing mixtapes in here, there's a lot of classic albums, mixtape wise. You know, you got to think DJ Drama, DJ K Slay. You know, Gangsta Grills is probably one of the greatest series running.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So then they could probably be in this classic list, but not without the mixtapes.
Right.
This one I highly disagree with is Jadakiss. I'm sorry, his first album is a classic to me.
I've been saying this, bro. Kiss the Game Goodbye is his best album. I don't feel like it's a classic though, and I respect people that feel like that's his classic. That's great, but to me, that's his best album. Like again, like when you go over his discography, Kiss to Death. Some of the songs from 2004 sound very outdated. Then Last Kiss. I only remember one song from Last Kiss.
Yeah, I don't
remember. Everything else, Top 5 Dead or Alive. Don't care for all those other albums. Ignatius was a more grown up album for Jada because his manager that was deceased, he wanted Jada to collaborate with certain artists that he didn't get a chance to. So that was more grown up Jada. But I will say Kiss the Game Goodbye to me is his best album. Like I love the album. I was a part of the Rough Rider Street team for that album. And he had great production and features. You know, DJ Premier's on that, and DMX rest in peace. Snoop Dogg's on that. Nate Dogg rest in peace. He's on that album. I don't feel like it's still a Mount Rushmore type of debut album. You know what I'm saying? Like when we even when we think of like rap debut albums, Big L first album, Big Pun, Capital Punishment, Busta Rhymes, The Come In, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. I don't think it's on that Mount Rushmore.
No, you know, that's your opinion. I mean, Kiss to Death. I could skip more tracks than I can listen to. Last Kiss again. But to me, Jada's first album, maybe it's either the nostalgia or it was the fact that we waited so long.
Yes.
That when we finally got it, we were kind of settled, but still I can listen to it today and I can run through the entire album. Like no problem, no skip, no nothing. You know, even the radio hits that were back then with We Gon' Make It, Put Your Hands Up, Lose Yourself, Knock Yourself Out. I'm thinking of M, Lose Yourself. But even those songs, I never get sick of them. Whereas like Busta, Woo-Ha, like there are times where I just skip it because I can't listen to it again. I heard it so much on the radio. This one, I mean, this is a good question. And no, this is where we're going to get into a debate coming up. But being part of a group with a classic album in that group does not qualify as being a solo. These are solo artists that, you know, that's what they're saying on the internet. So between the list that was made a couple years ago and Triborough did some digging on Reddit, and this was kind of the list that we came up with of the most 15 talked about MCs. So no, if you're in a group and you got a classic, then the locks are in there, all of them.
Bro, on I just want to say, like, on Reddit, they have other artists on their list that don't belong on the list. I've seen people say Black Sheep. I totally disagree. I think Black Sheep first album was a classic, underrated classic. They have Most Def. Most Def should never be on that list. Black on Both Sides was a classic debut solo album from him. J. the Damager, totally disagree. He has 2 classics from Primo, his first 2 albums, The Sun Rises in the East and Wrath in the Math. They have Beanie Siegel on the list. Totally disagree with that. Royce the 5'9" should not be on that list.
Nope.
Saigon, totally disagree. His first album, The Greatest Story Never Told, was a classic album. Production done by Just Blaze. That was great. Now, Papoose, I do agree. Papoose should be on the list. They have Papoose on there. They have Crooked Eye. But Crooked Eye didn't really come out with a lot of...
Kenny mentioned Mano too, and Mano definitely deserves to be on that list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw one person say Foxy Brown and Lil' Kim. I totally disagree with that.
Oh, I disagree.
Gangsta Boo. Gangsta Boo. I wasn't a huge fan of Gangsta. I love 3 6 Mafia, but I didn't really pay attention to a lot of her stuff. Rest in peace, Gangsta Boo. But some of the names on this list like should not be on the list.
Yeah,
so that's on Reddit. That's just for Reddit. That's not,
that's just
talking about
Reddit.
the popular list. Right.
Yeah, so that's why we put together this list, because this was mainly the ones that were more popularized, where it was in every list, no matter where it came from. Big L, 100% totally disagree. He has got a classic. The Big Picture, love the first half of the album, not a big fan of the second half. So for me, that one's not a classic, but I mean, I even did a bars segment on that album, Lifestyles of the Poor and listen, that album is immaculate.
Definitely.
Like immaculate. I can't, yes, does it sound dated because of the beat, the production? Yes, but it doesn't sound as outdated as Fabulous's albums from back then. You know what I mean? And Fab was popping them shits out in the early 2000s. This was what, 95, 94, 95?
Yeah.
That Big L dropped this solo?
95.
Yeah. So going that far back and still being able to vibe out and just be like, still cover your mouth when and the line is coming. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you still are like, oh my God, I just can't believe back then he was saying that shit. Imagine if he was alive right now. Right. You know what I'm saying? Just like I say about Big Pun, I believe if Big Pun was still alive, because if you look at Yeah Baby, what direction, Triborough, was he going in with Yeah Baby? He was blending his Spanish culture into his album. Right. And I think Big Pun would have been the one to introduce reggaeton to America versus Nori.
I agree.
But I think Nori seen the vision while everybody laughed at him because, it was a couple years after Yeah Baby that, Nori came out with that reggaeton album that he did. Everybody laughed at him and the shit sold millions. It went almost diamond. So he was on to something, but Big Pun was on that. If you go listen to Yeah Baby today, you got your hardcore joints. But if you notice, once you start getting to the middle of that album, he starts to blend in that Caribbean Spanish culture, and you still want to vibe to it. So I think he would have been the originator of bringing in reggaeton, if you ask me. But Big L, definitely his first album. If not, I mean, he only made 2 albums. So it's kind of hard to really
calibrate. Thing with the big picture was it was an album of like B-sides and unreleased stuff. Because like by that time, the underground college radio was playing like Ebonics and Size 'Em Up. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't get a chance to make any videos for those songs. You know what I'm saying? So that's not really like a real album. It's just a collection of unreleased songs and B-sides and freestyles.
Yeah. It's basically Biggie's Born Again, except not bad.
It was bad. Yeah,
Because Born Again was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm so mad at Puff when he came out with that. So we agree, Big L, classic,
Yes.
first
Yes.
album. All right. So
sure.
everybody else that thinks that he should be on this list, you're out of your mind. Now, Darren, DJ, this is the big debate, and that's going to be Andre 3000. Classic album or not?
Classic album.
I say no.
It's a solo album. That I have to stress this to people because I've been in debates about this for years. The thing with LaFace is the way that they marketed this album is it's both group members from Outkast together with their first debut solo albums, and that's how they sold it together. They sold it like that. That's how they packaged it together. It's not an Outkast album. It's not an Outkast project, but it's an Outkast. It's the two group members of Outkast coming out with their debut solo albums together as a double album. That's how they packaged it. So if you it's not an Outkast album because it's only one collab between both of them on the album. They did Roses on, I believe that's on Speakerbox.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that was it. And Andre even produced a couple of songs on Speakerbox for Big Boy. So it's not an Outkast album. They each have their own solo album, but they sold it together. That's how you find it in the stores. That's how I have it. It's a double album sold together. Now but it is a classic album. I do love. I prefer Love Below more than Speakerbox. I don't even think Speakerbox is Big Boy's best album. I think So Lucius Left Foot was his best solo album. But I do think Love Below is a classic album. From production, the songs, the concepts, the features. He had Khalees on there. He had Big Boys on that. I loved it.
Now, here's the other debate I wanted to go over real quick when it comes to Love Below, Andre 3000, or Kanye 808s and Heartbreaks. Because if you ask me, I got to go 808s and Heartbreaks. I think it's a better, more put together album. I think it's a classic. Love Below.
It is. I agree.
Yeah. Love Below is a classic when you don't look at it in that frame of mind of, the way they packaged it, because that was the argument on Joe Budden's podcast, is that it was together and they marketed it as Outkast. That was the problem. If they would have said, and I mean, you could clearly tell, Big Boy's disc 1, disc 2 is Andre 3000. Two totally different directions, two totally different styles of genres, in my opinion, and still both made Speakerbox is okay, but Love Below, I would say, is a classic. But if people are going to put them together as a group, then he has no solo album, because that is the only solo album.
This is LaFace's. LaFace did this. This is why people are still confused with what happened. I would say it's an Outkast. It's Outkast presenting Speakerbox Love Below. It's like an Outkast. It's under the Outkast umbrella, but it's not an Outkast album. It's not an Outkast. The last Outkast album was Idlewild. That's the soundtrack to their movie. That's the last Outkast official album. You know what I'm saying? But this is an Outkast project. It's just not a group album. It's just the two group. You've never seen nothing like this ever in no other genre. You know what I'm saying? Like, they never did. Like, imagine if Mobb Deep had did this, where Prodigy comes out with HNIC, and then Havoc comes out with the Kush, and they were both together. It's not a Mobb Deep album. It's just the two group members with their individual debut solo albums together. That's how LaFace packaged it. Yeah,
and it's unfortunate, because I would have rather have just bought Andre's, and I think maybe that's another thing. Darren just brought it up.
Right.
Can't punish Outkast for junking the sales stats.
Right.
To be honest, I think Andre 3000's album would have outsold Big Boy, and maybe there would have been some creative tension there. So,
well, there was tension between the two members at that time too.
So
they were like,
because how do you pay?
And,
yeah. So that I could see it being caused. Next up, Ludacris. I think I agree. He needs to be on this list. He doesn't have a classic.
Wow, that's crazy.
There is
Ludacris got 3 classic albums. Not even not just one. I think
please
two
name
classics.
them. Please name them because
I will. Back for the first time. That was his Def Jam debut. Word of Mouth and Chicken and Beer. I think those still his best albums. Some people would even include Red Light District. Red Light District was dope. I think that might be a near classic, but his first three to me are the best albums from Ludacris. And for him, for what he did for like Def Jam South, and it was a new label under Def Jam and started by Scarface, and having bringing in 2 Chainz and Chingy and Shauna, that whole DTP crew. I think Ludacris definitely do not need to be on this list. They don't know whoever made this list, they don't know what they're talking about.
I think maybe his strongest album is Word of Mouth, and I could still skip 5 or 6 tracks.
Wow.
It's just, and I'm not saying Ludacris is in no way, shape, or form is he a bad artist. I just think that for some reason, some of his stuff just doesn't click with me, and that's and that could be my thought, because I thought Theater of the Mind was a great album.
I didn't really care for that album. I know Reggie loves that album. I have it, but I didn't care for it. I didn't like all the songs on that album though, but people love it.
And I'm sorry, and Reg, much love, much love, but this is just my feeling, and he agrees. Darren agrees. First 2 albums, I just don't. I just, there's something about I can skip so many songs on his albums. It's tough. It's really tough for me.
Right.
Yeah.
People compare him to like the down south version of Redman.
Yeah, but people also compare Rick Ross to Biggie, and that's no way, shape, or form are you even close to Big. So I'm not. I take that with a grain of salt.
That was more Ross. That was more Ross trying to be like Biggie. He's not.
He's no Redman of the South. I love his verses. I've never heard him on a trash feature ever. He's like the Jada Kiss of features. I've never heard a whack verse.
Right.
But for me, it's just like I said, his albums, there's just something that doesn't click with me. And that's it. So I feel he deserves to be on this list.
What?
Go ahead. Chew me out.
Okay.
Chew me out.
No, I was saying I was saying Incognito that was his independent album, and like he took out like some songs from that to Back for the First Time. But I feel like his first 3 Def Jam releases to me were like his best classic material. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really think he has a bad album, because there's some albums that I prefer over others. Like Release Therapy was cool, it was dope. It's not one of my favorites though. Same with Theater of the Mind, but I liked Battle of the Sexes. It was a dope concept. A lot of people don't care for that album, but I don't think he has like a whack album in his discography though. Maybe Ludaverse. Ludaversal was not that good, but other than that, he has a strong discography.
Yeah, that one is. And then I think he has another, it's a small LP. Yeah. I think it's only like 6 tracks, but I think it was like Burning Bridges or something like that. And I like that. All the songs on that one were great. I just forgot the name of it. I think Redman in the South isn't as bad a comparison, but Ludacris isn't the underrated lyrically as the Funk Doc. And he's right. Redman does get underrated all of the time, and I don't know why. He's another artist that has never disappointed me, ever. Like any verse that he is on, any song, any feature. Right. I just like him. All right. So I disagree. I agree. Triborough disagrees. Ludacris stays on the list for me. Take him off of yours, Try, not mine. Okay. Inspector Deck. I think this is a very I'm an asshole, boy.
Yeah.
I think this one's a little disrespectful. I really do. I really think that this is disrespectful because we didn't really get his masterpiece.
Right.
Plain and simple.
It's not really. It's not. really his fault. RZA just had a couple of floods at
Yep.
the old spot when he was creating these solo classics for the members, and unfortunately, Deck is one of those people that he didn't get that classic from RZA. Like, and he planned it. Like, he planned the whole. It was like a whole Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man theme, and it was gonna be like the answer to Ghostface Iron Man album. You know, the whole Marvel theme, and unfortunately, like when you listen to Let Me At Him and Rec Room, those were like the songs that was gonna be on that first album before the flood. But we got the flood, and RZA couldn't save none of those beats on the floppy disk, and we got Uncontrolled Substance. It's dope. There's some bangers. It's not a classic to me, you know what I'm saying? But that doesn't take away who Deck is as a lyricist. He's one of the best lyricists in Wu-Tang Clan.
And let's be clear, one of the best song starters in the game. Anytime you heard him starting off a song for Wu-Tang, for any of his brothers, anybody, just automatic fire. You were tuned in, because in a song, two things are the most important right off the bat. Your beats, right off the bat. If somebody's not feeling the beat most of the time, especially nowadays, back in our days, we had to actually listen to music. But, you know, if your beat wasn't dope and that first verse wasn't dope, the chances of you listening to the rest of that song were pretty slim to none. So we got over here Inspector Deck's albums. Chamber Number 9. The Movement.
I never heard a lot of those.
Manifesto.
Yeah.
Uncontrolled Substance wasn't that. You could just feel the rush in that one. I don't think he has a classic, but again, it's unfair. And Inspector Deck wasn't even. That's not the only Wu member that he lost records for. He lost some for GZA. He had a whole bunch of. They were working on another Wu-Tang projects. So, he brought Steel brought up a good point. Juice, brother, Steel's brother,
Delano Steele, DSJ.
Yeah. Inspector Deck's albums are highly promoted. So, I do agree with that. I feel
we're not gonna let him off the hook, because he was on Loud Records too, just like Raekwon, just like Raekwon Purple Tape was on Loud Records, right? And that's a classic, might be the best Wu solo album. So we can't let Deck off the hook. If anything, we blame Steve Rifkin and label for not promoting it enough. You know what I'm saying? But I will say this, like for Deck, he has classics within the group. Like he did a collab album with Czarface, and those are pretty classic. I love those Czarface albums.
Yes,
those are great. Those are highly underrated. Like 7L and Esoteric, highly underrated. So I will say the Czarface albums are classic, and he's a part of that group now. You know what I'm saying? But but he's done so many great features. But solo wise, though, I feel like that one Spider-Man album that was coming out, that would have been his classic RZA album, and we didn't get that.
Yeah, and again, playing off of Ghostface, and that was their whole repertoire. I mean, and even like the album covers for the Czarface are they're fire. All those album covers, they're so dope. They are so dope.
No. I'm saying I didn't listen to all of his albums. Like after Uncontrolled Substance, I know he put out other albums like by himself, but I haven't listened to none of those albums. So
I'm looking them up right now.
That's what I mean.
I'm looking them up right now. Manifesto, Movement, The Movement, Chamber Number 9, and none of these albums I didn't even hear. I didn't even know he had them.
I think Chamber Number 9, he did a joint with Alchemist on there, if I'm not mistaken. But I haven't listened to those albums yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. So I couldn't even tell you. Can't Stay Away. I never even knew this album existed.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But hey, that's life. All right. So that one I think is just a little it's hard to put him in that classic when his first wasn't even what he wanted. So That's tough. Next one, Method Man.
It's totally disagree. Totally disagree.
Yeah, super disagree.
No,
His first two
there's no way.
albums, classics.
His first two albums are his best.
Classics.
Now I remember I was telling you, and I told people this before. I was very underwhelmed when Takal came out in '94. I was when I first heard it, I didn't like it, and it took me years to actually, warm up to the album because I was expecting the big features. This is the sex symbol of Wu-Tang Clan. He was the one that got the first Grammy. You know what I'm saying? I was expecting a lot of great features on Takal, and we didn't get that. It was very dark. The production was very, very monotone. Even like the mistakes that RZA left in the mixing, they left it in the mixing process of the album. So you hear like all the like, at least with you got to get the OG copy, not the remaster. The OG copy, all the mistakes are left into the production.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It was very grimy, very dirty Method Man, and I wasn't expecting that sound for his first album. So it took me a while to get. There was some tracks that I loved, like PLO Style, and of course Bring the Pain and Meth vs. Chef. But the whole album, it took me years to get into it. But then when he dropped Takal 2, I'm like, this is a much better album. You have not just RZA and the Wu Element producers doing a production. You got Havoc, you got Eric Sermon doing production. I think Meth did some production himself. You had Street Life, his homie Street Life was on a lot of the tracks, and he had like some great verses. You had a lot of collabs on that. Left Eye, rest in peace. She's on the album. You had Inspector Deck. He was on the album. Raekwon, Mobb Deep. A lot of skits. Janet Jackson was on the skit. You have Chris Rock. Even Donald Trump. Donald Trump was on that album. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
President of the United States right now. He was on that Takal too. So that to me was a much better album. Even though I didn't like the skits, and it ran like 27, 28, it could have been a double album, but I think that was a much better album. And his first two albums to me are his best. When you look at his discography, Takal, the prequel was garbage. I have that. Unfortunately, that was a garbage album. I do like The Day After. That was probably like his last good album. And then you got the Meth Lab stuff. I wasn't a fan of, but in hindsight, when you look back at his discography now, his first two albums are his best albums. So he don't need to be on this list.
Yeah. Method Man has classic albums, but strictly for the lyricist loungers. Yeah. His Meth Lab series are classics in recent years. And everything he's been touching, he's done a lot of songs with Griselda. Yeah. He's done a lot of songs with BSF. He was on Ghost album. He was on Ray's album. Lately, I don't know what has gotten into meth, because for a while he was slipping, but I think he was really getting into that acting. So he was in a lot more movies, TV shows. So I think maybe he was letting the lyrical side of him just kind of bow down. But now he's right back up like fire.
He's back.
Absolute fire.
He's back.
No, yeah. I gotta agree with Triborough on this one. I'm sorry, Steele, but
the prequel. Well, there's only two songs on the prequel that I like. That whole album was trash. I don't.
Yeah, I can't agree with that. I also disagree with our next man on the list, which is Lupe Fiasco. There's no way. The first two. Yeah. You cannot tell me that the Cool and his first album isn't classic. How are you skipping tracks? Yeah. I don't know. Anything else?
I don't get it. I don't know.
Anything else? Yes. Because now he's in some old samurai karate ninja shit. I don't even know what he's doing anymore. But, Food and Liquor was amazing. And then to have all that slack from his record company, you got to dumb it down. You got to do stuff. And he stayed true to form. So when he came out with that second album, here's the Cool, baby. And we're going to stick it to you. Lasers, or AKA Losers, is where I thought he was trying to go for the fans, for to get the radio fans. Yeah. Because Kick Push was really for the streets metaphorically, but for the skateboarders, as well. But if you really listen deep, it's actually very metaphorical, very lyrical, very disguised as a wisdom song. But he just knew how to disguise it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the man, his own father disowned him because he was strictly Muslim. And when he went to rap, his father disowned him for it. So you got to give credit to somebody that's willing to let their family go because he wanted to pursue his passion and pass knowledge to the game. And those first two albums are just absolute fire.
I remember when Lasers came out, he had a fan petition in front of the record label because there's a different version of Lasers that he wanted out, and Atlantic wanted like the one that we got, the mainstream version.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, everybody looked at that like, yo, that's mainstream Lupe Fiasco that we don't like. You know what I'm saying? But they had a fan petition online. You know what I'm saying? And like picketing with signs that to release the original. We may never get that, but you know, one of those songs that came from the original album was Airplanes. That was the B.O.B. song that won a Grammy with Haley Williams from Paramore, and who else was on that? Eminem was on that as well. You know what I'm saying? But that was Lupe Fiasco's song, and it was given to B.O.B. But you know, his first two albums were great, and then he took a different direction with his music with Tetsu and Youth. It was really trappy. I really didn't care for it, and I haven't enjoyed anything from Lupe since The Cool. You know what I'm saying? Like I've heard a couple of his albums, even Food and Liquor 2, it wasn't as great. And then he had the fault. He had the beef with Pete Rock over the sample for that album. And I know he's back now. I didn't hear the Samurai album, but he actually is like he took karate. Like he has a black belt.
Oh, I know. I get it, but we don't need to hear about it lyrically. So let's just, you know what I mean? I haven't liked anything since The Cool. I'm right there with you, but he doesn't deserve to be on this list.
He shouldn't be on this list.
His first two are definitely classics. Prodigy.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We better be talking about Prodigy. Hold on, we better be talking about Prodigy, the rock group, and not the list.
No. We're talking Prodigy.
No,
it was on Reddit. It was on Reddit, and people were arguing that HNIC was overrated. And when I was reading the comments, I was bugging. I said, "What?
That's crazy.
What? What?" And again, I think a lot of this, and there are, like, there's a guy I work with that is young, but whoever raised him right, because he knows all about Wu-Tang. He knows all of, you know what I'm saying? So he knows where the culture came from. Mm-hmm. And he don't even like guys today. He's more into Griselda, BSF, Conway, all that. And that's showing you something, because more kids nowadays in their 20s, it's all about, Lil Baby, young Yachty, and all this shit. So, you know what I mean? Prodigy, I didn't even want to put him on this list, but because he was very heavily debated,
crazy.
Yeah.
How is Albert Johnson on this list? How is Prodigy on this list? Because again, when we talk about, and this is like, we could do like a whole show about this, like some of the best rappers from groups that had a legendary solo run: Busta Rhymes, Prodigy, Sean Price, Ghostface Killer. Prodigy had an epic run with Alchemist, from HNIC to all the way to his last album. I'm saying, like, every project was classic. Like the HNIC 1 and 2 was my favorites. You had the Albert Einstein album, one of his best, but might be his best album with Alchemist. He was in real form on that in his prime. The Albert Johnson album, I know Return of the Mac, classic. Like, he had an epic run as a solo artist. And I
Yeah.
don't know who did this list, but they truly don't know hip hop. If you have Prodigy on this list, but you don't have Lil Yachty on here, you don't have Wale.
Yeah.
Wale, I like Wale. He ain't got a classic album. Why he not on this list?
Yeah. I don't know. You know, but
Just saying.
that's it. The only reason why I put the name in there, and when I sent you the list, I was like, "What do you think?" Because it is. When I seen that, I was like, "There's no way." Like that's like saying LL doesn't have a classic album. To me, you know what I mean? Like LL's up there with one of the. He puts together music that he wants, but you can't tell me he doesn't have classics. So I don't know. I just wanted to touch upon that real quick. Black Thought. This one's arguable.
Well, I would say Black Thought as a solo artist don't have a classic.
He don't have one.
As a solo artist, he don't.
Yeah, he doesn't have one as a solo artist.
Within the Roots have multiple classics.
Yeah. You know, that goes back to DJ's question. Like, if they're in a group, do they have a classic album? And for the sake of this list, no. So for me, Black Thought does it. Right. Great mixtapes, great, well put together. Of course, lyrical when it comes to Black Thought. I still think he is one of the underrated artists, right there with AZ. But yeah, he unfortunately he doesn't have a classic. He does belong on this list, so you know that one I agree with. Joel Santana, early 2000s.
No, I disagree. I think Joel's first two albums, his best albums. Again, he's the one that got offered a Rockefeller contract, not Jim Jones. It was Cam and Joel's.
Yep.
And Joel's in his prime.
Just to be clear, hold on, Try. Just to be clear, Hellrell was in jail at this time. But go ahead. I got to defend my Hellrell. You know I love Rell.
Yeah, but I don't know if Hellrell would have gotten offered a Rockefeller contract though.
He wasn't. He's street. He was too street for them. That's why.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But he made his way on the Dipset album. You know what I'm saying? Jewels was the MVP of Diplomatic Immunity Volume 1. Without Jewels, that album would not be a classic double album. He outshined Cameron on a lot of those songs. And this is Jewels when he's like, 17, 18 years old? And he comes out with his own album, From Me to You, classic debut album, and What the Game's Been Missing, his sophomore album, both classic albums. And he had a mixtape run with Back Like Cook Crack. I wish he would get back to that. Old Jewels, we may never get that again. But Young Jewels has two classic albums.
Kenny, after his first two albums, yes, I would agree with you. He
fell off.
He's not. Let's be clear. Even in the first two albums, he is not a super lyrical guy. But I never looked at Joel Santana like that. I looked at him as I want to have fun and listen to some Dipset. I think in its truest form, Joel Santana is Dipset. That's going back and listening to his first two albums reminds you of Dipset. Again, Diplomatic Immunity. Yeah. He carried that. Both of them. So, you know what I mean? I will agree with that. I think his first two are classics, but after that, he's got nothing. 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 Maybe a single here and there.
He was a good compliment to Cam. He was a good compliment to Cam, like his right hand man. He was a good compliment to him and his style. And like I said, like when you listen to the double album, a lot of those tracks, Joel's, he shined on. Like he even had his own solo tracks on that album because they knew what they had at that time. Like he was like the future of Dipset. And then you had Hellrell
with he had the phone freestyles with Hellrell on the Diplomatic Immunity.
Yes, that was on that album. Yeah.
But wasn't that song Joel Santana where it had the little kid singing in the chorus? Wasn't that on Diplomatic Immunity?
No, that was on I think that was on What the Game's Been Missing. That was on his second album.
That was one.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it's one of my favorite songs by him, and I don't know why, but I love that song. It just makes me feel good. Makes me feel like, okay, I'm gonna have a good day today. You know, when it gets rough at my job, and my man DJ knows how rough it can get at my job, I pop in some, you know, one of my mixes because I have different mixes in all my playlists, and I just go. And you know, Joel Santana always pops up. When J.R. Ryder did Stop and Go, that was my shit. So when I hear those songs and I think back to that 2000 Dipset era, they were just doing it. They were just killing the game, like all over the place. But it was a very short run. And by the time, you know, by the time Rel got out of jail, the run was already starting to end.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, he never really got that shine from that, but he's too street. I don't think he would have gotten that Rockefeller deal or the Def Jam deal. That's why he went to Koch.
Yeah.
So, but last one, and this is one of I believe this belongs up there with Prodigy. Why is this man's name on the list?
I don't know.
Lloyd Banks.
I don't get that. That is the best MC in G-Unit. How is he on this list?
How is he on this list? You could take away, and I know, and me and you have talked about this over the phone. I think Rotten Apple is one of the most underrated, slept on albums. And I think it's only because at that particular time, 50 was beefing with him and was really trashing him on all the interviews, saying he was lazy. He didn't want to put in no work. So I get it. That's the reason why I think. Plus, he did leave the original album in some girl's car, but you know, Joe Buttons. We won't talk about that. But yeah, we know what happened. And for those of you who don't know, that was a Joe Button song, and he was dissing Lloyd Banks, and he said, unlike dudes that leave they whole bitch in some. I don't remember what he said, but he basically flipped it. But we knew he was talking about.
Well, I mean, can we talk about what happened with the second album on here? I don't know, because it's kind of scandalous.
So, I guess first of all, the rumor was she wasn't a woman.
No, that's not what I heard. That's not what I heard, though.
Oh, that's not what you heard. What I heard is that he was letting a escort, but it was a man. Listen to the album, and the dude ended up kicking him out of the car. That's what I heard. I don't know what you heard.
Supposedly what went down was he had a threesome with two women, and they stole the album. They stole the big payback, I think he was gonna call it, and they stole the album, and then he went back to do Rotten Apple. That's what we got now. But that was on, like, I've heard Who Kids say that too, like that really happened. Like the two women stole the album. So he had to go back and do the tracks with Rotten Apple. So that's what we got. I thought Rotten Apple was great.
Yeah, it's great. It's not a classic. It's not a classic, but it is great. It is very underrated, and I think people should go back and give it another shot. I mean, yes, there are skippables on there, and you know, and he's another one. If you put Lloyd Banks in a mixtape category, Halloween Havocs are they're gonna kill. A lot of mixtape runs. I mean, kill a lot of mixtape runs. Those mixtapes are extremely slept on, and I love all 6 of them. I love all 6. I have not heard a bad one yet. They are all great, but that's mixtapes. I think his first album is definitely classic. Yes, does it have G-Unit 50 Cent DNA on it? Of course it does. That's what they were doing. But it's still him. Super lyrical. Warriors is still my favorite joint on there because of the impact of it, the power of it, the lyrical ability. And he had a voice like no other. There's no other MC. Joe Buttons, Lloyd Banks, Prodigy, and Jay-Z, you know, like Nas, there are certain voices that the second you hear them, you know who they are. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then there's
Right.
other guys where you hear him and you're like, who? Like the first time I heard Action Bronson, I really thought that was Ghostface. And I'm
A lot
like,
of people did.
I was
Yeah.
like, yo, this shit kind of whack, Ghost. What the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Because I'm big. I'm a huge Ghostface fan. Fish,
Yeah.
more fish, fish scale. Like, bring it all on, baby. I love them all.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, that's a whack ass verse. You know what I mean? I'm like, and why is he doing a feature with this white girl? Like, I was so confused.
Right.
And then I find out it's not even Ghostface, it's Action Bronson. And when they tried to go, like, you're trying to go toe to toe with Ghost, that's the last person I would want to go toe to toe with, because no matter what, he got Wu behind him.
Oh yeah.
And there's nobody beating Wu.
No.
Nobody. When Joe Buttons got punked down and slapped by Raekwon at the thing, Royce the 5'9" is the one with no shirt on, went up to all of them and said he'll fuck all of them up. And Raekwon got scared. Okay? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, but lyrical wise, ain't nobody touching Wu. They'll come after you from every angle. They'll start pulling. They'll probably bring back Killer Army and kill you. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to remember, you got olive branches. You got Killer Army. You've got
Sons of Man.
You got Sons of Man. You got Wu Syndicates. I mean,
Syndicate,
there's too much to pull from. And regardless of how they feel about Wu, about RZA and his brother and the way they did business, you never, aside from the core members, you never really heard anybody bashing, I never wanted to be a part of Wu. I hated Wu. None of them. No Sons of Man, no Killer Army, no Wu, none of them. They never talked trash about the group themselves. They always gave them a fair shot. And they let them do what they wanted to do. Killer Army, both their albums, Secret Weaponry, Dirty Weaponry, both great albums. And they, for a group of four, they just killed it. Killed it. Every time. Every time. You know? But is there anything, please, y'all got to go and watch Mark and him. Man, that shit was so funny last night. I had to promote it one more time before we head out. Is there any MC that you feel like that's not on this list that actually should be on this list?
Wale, good artist.
Wale.
Besides Wale, I mean, it's probably others.
I mean, there's probably plenty, but what is your top?
Yeah.
Everybody
Tony Yayo. He's another one. Tony Yayo. No classic album.
Yeah. Okay. Because I hated his first album.
Yeah, let's take off Banks and put Yayo on there.
Yeah.
You know,
we should have put Yayo on there.
Yeah.
And I'll still argue, I think 50's only got one classic, and that's his first album.
I disagree. But
maybe two, because I did like Power of a Dollar.
Yes.
But the Massacre,
I thought Massacre was fire. Like people shit on that now, and when it came out, it sold, like it went millions. Like how are we shitting on an album from 20 years ago?
I'm not shitting on it now, but I'm just saying, even back then, it was just okay.
The joints that was on that album, This Is 50, Ski Mask Way, Position of Power. Come on, bro. Like what we talking about? Like that, he could have a verses right now and use joints on that album to beat T.I. if he wanted to.
If you want, I mean, he can just put on his first album. I mean, if you really want to get technical, I love T.I.
Playing what T.I. has done. T.I. is a legend too. I'm not downplaying what he's done.
I feel like T.I. is one of the originators of trap music. I think he belongs right up there with one of the originators, because he's the one that really was stamping it. This is trap music. This ain't no album. This ain't no game. You know what I'm saying? So you got that vibe right off. And I think, his first two albums were great. Classic even. But after that, T.I. just really doesn't have – he's got street anthems, but he doesn't have anything that can compete with in the club still. I think he'll give him a great run for his money. I really do.
Rada Music was my Rada Music. That was high tech. I love. That's my favorite joint from Massacre. That's a great track. Like I said, Massacre is classic. But the thing is now, it's like people shit on it now, but they wasn't doing that back in what was like 05 that came out, 06. And I don't understand that. I think maybe they got amnesia along the way, but Massacre is one of his best albums to me.
I mean, the Massacre is okay, man. I'm not gonna change it. You know what I mean? Like I could skip like 6 songs on there easily. You know, but that's me. Again, you know, a lot of people didn't like Reasonable Doubt when it first came out. You know, it took 20 years for it to grow on people. Right. Most people hate Volume 1, and I think that's one of his most underrated albums. You know what I mean? So
I agree.
That's just my opinion.
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. Did he switch? Yes. And you know why he switched? Because he realized the type of money he can make. This is what I mean. I will always go back to truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense. But I made $5 million. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's all about the money. At the end of the day, if you're doing it for passion and love, like a PF Doom. Doom does it for him. He loves the music. He doesn't do it for the money. Mm-hmm. Is he making money? Right. Is he getting money? Is he getting money off of merchandise? Yes, he is doing the ICP blueprint to a T. You know what I mean? But he's making music that he loves. Mm-hmm. He wants to make that music. He's not worried about mainstream. Jay wanted to make Reasonable Doubt, and that was it. And then he saw that money rolling in from the revenues and all that, and being the owner of this record label. And then he said, fuck this, I'm switching up styles. Let's go. And look. And I'll be the first biggest Jay fan in the world, but I think there's more bad albums that he put out than there are good albums. So that's coming from a true fan.
He got a couple of bad ones, but I think the good outweighs his bad though for him.
It depends on how you look at it.
You know what I'm saying?
Especially,
I mean, if we started from Reasonable Doubt, right, and then Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. We got Dynasty. You didn't like Volume 3?
No, I love Volume 3. Volume 2, I think is one of
Volume
his
2?
worst.
Wow, that's crazy.
I just hate that.
Best. Like he became a household name.
Yes, I know, because he did the Annie thing. I get that, but the 2 dopest tracks on there, Ride or Die, Reservoir Dogs. That is it.
You didn't but he had the big hits. He had Jigga What, Jigga Who. He had
that should have been a Ja Rule song.
Money in the Thing with Jermaine P.
That shit was corny.
I didn't like the Can I Get Her. I didn't like Can I Get Her with Ja Rule. Never liked that song.
It was a Ja Rule song.
Yeah, I never liked it.
Ja Rule gave it to him.
That should have been on Ja Rule's album.
Yes. And the first verse and the last verse were supposed to be both Ja Rule. They deleted the first verse. And Jay-Z hopped on it. That's what made the song. And it wasn't even supposed to be a meal either. It was supposed to be Ashanti.
Yeah.
So Can I Get a What don't even count. The 2 best songs on Volume 2, Ride or Die, Reservoir Dogs. That Tupac shit was corny. Where he's running to Pac, asking where we went wrong. Shut the fuck up. Secondly, the DMX joint, I like the remix more with Beanie Siegel and Memphis Bleak. DMX had a dope verse, but I like the remix better.
Yes.
But Money Cash Hoes was okay. It's basic. It was basic. Money, cash, cash, what? That's it. There's no thought, creativity in there. Hard Knock Life. The only reason why I sold is,
and it's a collab.
You done? Coming from the biggest J fan. I'd rather listen to
we
Volume
got
1.
after Dynasty is Blueprint. So he had a run from Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint. Blueprint 2 was trash. Don't like Blueprint 2. I think that was his first mistake, right?
Yep, the double CD.
Black Album, great album. He should have retired. He should have retired with Black Album, but he came back. He had American Gangster. That was dope. He gave us Kingdom Come, not so great.
Iffy.
Magna Carta, trash.
Iffy.
What was after Magna Carta? I'm forgetting. After Magna Carta is what, 444? That was okay.
Yeah,
it wasn't great. It was okay.
444.
That was like the Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah, grown up.
Right.
That's what 444 is. It's Reasonable Doubt grown up. You know, but the Dynasty, unfortunately, I've always considered it more of a group album because he was promoting, you know, he was promoting his artists. So that it's kind of like Killer Season for me. If you really go back and listen to Cameron Killer Season, he was promoting his artist more than he was promoting his own freaking album. And that's what I felt like the Dynasty was. Does the Dynasty have the best intro ever in any rap game? Yes. Any rap album. I don't care where you go. The theme song to The Sopranos plays in the key of life on my mental piano. Done. Over. Gone. That beat, the sample, everything, fire. Best intro in any rap album. But that album is nothing but promotion for Rockefeller. And that's it. Right. That's how I look at the Dynasty. Squeeze First was the best song on there. And This Can't Be Life because Scarface, he made me cry. Scarface killed that verse. Killed it. Other than that, Squeeze First, Can't Be Life. Parking Lot Pimpin' was corny as shit. Anything with Myth Bleak back then was corny as shit. Oh
man.
I was not Myth Bleak Myth Bleak
Speaking of Memphis Bleak, how come he's not on this list? He has no classics.
No, he'll never have a classic. He'll never have a classic. Ever.
Yeah. He should be on this list. He had some good albums. He had some good albums. I feel like Understanding was his best album.
And Understanding.
456.
And
456.
Even saying they were good albums is hard pressed. Hard pressed. Right. He is not lyrical at all. Right. I think Joel Santana is more lyrical, and we're talking about younger Joel Santana. People that gangs who hang and bang, whereas literal Sesame Street rhymes sound better than Memphis Bleak.
Right.
So, Dr. Seuss.
I will say this: last year, Memphis Bleak gave us a good comeback. The apartment that was all grown up. I want to see that for a lot of artists now. That if they still like Jewel's, I would like to see a Jewel's comeback album where he's grown up. He's talking about family and investments. That was a good. I got to give it to Bleak. Bleak had a good comeback album last year.
All right, and I'll listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet. Understanding
was good. That's his best album to me. Yes, DJ Understanding was his best album to me. But I don't think it's a classic though.
It's not a classic.
His best album.
And I don't think Memphis Bleak is super lyrical. I've never seen him as a lyrical dude. I've seen him as unfortunately, he got put in that same category that Drag On got put into. Everybody that comes under somebody huge, look at what's homeboy's name? Nelly's homeboy there that came off of Saint Lunatics.
Murphy Lee.
Murphy Lee. There you go. Murphy Lee didn't do nothing because he came under Nelly. Everybody was expecting another Nelly album from Murphy, not understanding that he was totally different. He had a different vibe, and it flopped. Mm-hmm. So, again, all these artists that come underneath, that try to come from under the shadow of, unfortunately, even though Havoc and, Prodigy came in at the same time in the same group, Havoc can never outshine Prodigy.
Right.
Same with when Lost Boys split up. Mr. Cheeks was the only one that did anything.
It was only him.
You know what I mean?
It was only him.
So even in groups when they split up.
Yeah, but I mean, in fairness to Cheeks, I want to say like for Lost Boys, it was different because like Freaky Top passed away, and then I think Spig Nash got incarcerated. So we have Mr. Cheeks and Pretty Lou. Pretty Lou's not really. We didn't look at him as an MC. You know what I'm saying? So it was basically Mr. Cheeks to do everything on his own.
You know what the next list we got to tackle that I seen while I was looking
but even
this
with
up
him,
is groups. Because do you know one of the groups that was on these group lists that I was going through? UGK. How do you have UGK not have a classic album? That's crazy. And Bun B was another one that was on this list too.
That's crazy.
Which is Trill is dope as hell. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah.
Bun B is the South. He is Texas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
How do you not like that solo album? And then he's dealing with the tragedy of losing him. Like,
I mean, that's one of the best.
Yeah, he's dope. So, but Bun B was on a lot of lists as well. But I thought, unfortunately, Bun B never gets put in the solo category that much. It's always in the UGK category. Just like Big Boy never gets put in the solo, he always gets put with Outkast. But Andre always gets put in the solo category. You know what I mean? But you'll never see Big Boy in a solo category. It's always something to do with, I agree. Kenny, totally. But I couldn't even believe that. And again, I think Triborough is right. I don't know if it's 15-year-olds or whatever putting together these lists, but UGK not have a classic? That was. And then the other one that I seen was Onyx. And then I seen underneath one of the comments said, "Who is Onyx?"
Of course, they kids that's doing that. It has to be.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Not from our era because we already know Onyx got caught.
No. Now, granted, I still think their best one is the one that came out in '98. I can't think of the name right now. They're starting to wear down. But it had DMX on it.
Shut him down.
Yeah, shut him down. There you go.
Shut him down.
I think that right there was an instant classic.
Yeah.
There's maybe 2 songs I can skip on there, and that's a maybe.
Right.
That Veronica song will forever be one of the greatest storytelling when it comes to portrayal. Because you got a lot of Nas has one with the casino joint at the end of I Am, like one of the greatest storytelling is Veronica. And then I put I forgot the name of that Nas song. But where he comes home and he catches his girl with another dude, and then he goes downstairs. I forgot the name of the song though. It's on the I Am album. Shit, I can't think of it.
Undying Love, that one?
Yes. That's one of the greatest storytelling songs in hip hop. Of course, can you tell us a story, Uncle Rick? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there are a lot of great storytelling songs, but Veronica is one of the best. Double Cross, Can't Believe You Just Got Sold Out by a female songs. So, if y'all have not heard Onyx Shut 'Em Down and you happen to be watching this, my God, it's hard to skip 2 tracks. So to say they don't have a classic was out of control. But I think the group one should be next. We should do some deep diving and digging for that. But if you were born in 2000, don't talk to me about for real, Kenny. But you know, like I said, I work with a dude. He was born 2002. He's 24 years old, but he knows a lot about hip hop. So at least he did the homework, and I give him that. He knows the songs. He knows Wu-Tang. He knows about Stretch and Bobbito. So at least he was taught the right way, you know. So I mean, my son will be able to tell you who's who because I listened to it around him, you know. So this is when hip hop was hip hop.
Right.
But anyways, gonna head out.
Oh yeah.
Anything you want to say before we bounce, Tribe? Love the episode. Had a great time as always. But anything you want to say?
Yes. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting what we do. We're trying to be the best platform on Friday nights for people. This is a safe spot for everybody to come through and just chill and have great discussions like this. And
yes,
you know, shout out to everybody that's been supporting what we do.
Yes, man. And come here, speak your mind. We may not agree with you. We don't even agree with each other, but that's what makes it great. Because I can't fold Try. And Try can't fold me. So Volume 2 is not that great of an album. Love y'all. And we will see you next week with a new one. Please subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to all three of us, wherever you're watching. Raw Takes Unfiltered. That Ain't Rap Podcast, Movie AV Impulse. And again, go check out the live he did yesterday. Just go watch it and you'll see why I was laughing my ass off. And salute dudes in my top 5. And we also have to make that list of MCs, the top, what did we say, 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a top 30. We'll run through a top 30 one of these weeks. But anyways, much love to y'all. Thanks for the support, and we'll see you on the next one. We are out of here.